Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the 34th part of What If Deku Can't Stop Adopting Kids. Hope you enjoy. Link to the original story and author in the description. Chapter 186, Bear in Mind. It was a beautiful day outside. The skies were mostly clear with just a few clouds running along them and the sun shining down. The weather was warm, not too hot, not too cold, just warm. A perfect day for Fuku to hold herself up inside, at least that's what she would normally do on a day like this. But today was different. Because today, she was having a picnic. She, Kei, Kyoko, Otoko, Nara, and Alice had decided to go on a picnic, with Mina acting as their supervisor. Fuku spent all of the early morning, preparing food, while the others got everything else ready. By about 12 o'clock, all of them were gathered by the entrance, ready to go. Alright, do we have everything? Mina asked the kids. Food? Check. Kei said, pointing at Otoko who was carrying two big baskets full of food. Blankets? Mina asked. Got it, Nara said, holding up a basket with blankets in it. Alright, let's go. Mina said. Yeah. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. It didn't take them long to find a place to set down. Nara knew all the best spots, given that she ran around the forest as XLR8 plenty of times. They set up in a large clearing, near a mid-sized lake. Since they weren't quite ready for lunch yet, they decided to pass the time with some games. Catch! Mina said as she threw a frisbee over to Kei, who caught it enthusiastically. Got it! Nara, catch! Kei said as she threw the frisbee over to Nara. While everyone else played over in the sun, in the shade were Otoko and Fuku, relaxing on the blanket. Fuku was drawing out the scene in front of her, trying to immortalize today in paper, while Otoko watched. Fuku suddenly felt a tap on her shoulder, and looked behind her, to see Otoko had poked her with a stick. Once he had gotten her attention, he picked up a notepad that said, "You're really good at drawing." Oh. Thank you. Fuku blushed. Even after all this time she still wasn't used to praise. I heard you like to draw too. Can I see? Otoko paused, before picking up another book, and opening it, showing her one of his drawings. It was childish. Which was to be expected. Otoko had, like Fuku, attempted to draw the scene in front of them. His drawings of people weren't stuck figures, rather they were what one would imagine a child's first attempt at drawing people seriously was. The same went for the trees, and the sun. All of it was an amendment attempt at complexity, but it was unfinished. It was very apparent that for whatever reason, Otoko had stopped drawing halfway through. Fuku frowned. For whatever reason, she got a deep feeling of déjà vu when she looked at this drawing and she didn't like it. Why did you stop? You were doing really well. Otoko shook his head and wrote something down. Not as good as yours. Fuku's frown deepened. Now she knew where that feeling came from. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX father's house. She was looking down at an unfinished drawing of herself. The paper was darkened, as Fuku has erased her previous drawings many, many times. Fuku liked to draw. Mostly because she didn't have much else to do. And she wanted to make prettier drawings, like the paintings put up in the mansion. But she just couldn't manage it. Every time she would just mess something up, and it never looked anything like how she wanted it to. Once again she erased her drawing, wiping away tears of frustration to keep them from falling on the paper. Honestly, she was unsure if this was even worth it anymore. But, what else would she do? And so, she went back to work. She'd try, and try, and try until she got it right. If she could ever get it right. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX back to the conversation. I don't think you should give up so easily. Why don't I show you how to draw? But, on something simpler, like a flower. Otoko paused for a second to contemplate, before writing down okay. Good. Alright now, let's find a flower. Fuku stood up and looked around the area for a flower. Only to find that there were none around. This had been one of the many areas that had been destroyed and reconstructed, as such while the trees and grass had been replanted and grown, the flowers and other such things had not had enough time to spout. Oh, maybe there are some nearby, Fuku said, although she looked rather hesitant to go looking around the forest. Ms. Mina? Mina looked over to Fuku, only to get hit with a frisbee in the head. Ow! Fuku gasped. I'm sorry. Ah, it's fine, Mina said, walking over to the two of them while rubbing the side of her head. What's up? Thankfully, Otoko decided to do the talking, or rather, writing. We want to look for a flower to draw. But there aren't any here. Can we look in the forest? Sure. Mina clapped her hands, and a few Beowulfs came into the clearing. Guard the kids while they look for flowers. Okay? The Grimm turned to the children, ready to go. Thank you, Fuku said, standing up and giving Mina a bow, Otoko doing the same, before they both departed into the woods, with the Grimm in tow. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. It didn't take long for them to eventually find a flower. They arrived at a small pond, where they found a water iris. Alright, we found one. Fuku said with elation, as she ducked down and pulled out her notepad. Okay, now just, Despite saying she was going to show him how to draw, Fuku herself didn't really know how to teach. Just, watch me okay, Fuku instructed, getting a nod from the older boy. Fuku then started making a trace drawing of the flower, trying to ignore the pressure of being watched, while the Grimm watched them from behind. Things were actually going rather smoothly, until... Snap! EAP! Fuku jumped up in surprise and had to make an effort to hold in her quirk. Grrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr It was then that a small black bear cub. Rah! Immediately the Beowulfs jumped onto the cub, pinning it down to the ground. Rah! Rah! The bear cried out in a panic, as it struggled and squirmed in a fruitless attempt to escape. Ah! Wait, no, let it go, it's only a baby. Let it go. Let it go. Fuku ordered in a panic, trying her hardest to not release her gas. As per order, the Grim released the cub, and it quickly ran over to Fuku. Ha! Fuku gasped in shock as the bear ran behind her, hiding from the two Grim, and cuddling against her leg. Ah! Now Fuku was more shocked than scared. She almost released her gas for a second, but she quickly put up her guard, and kept it from escaping. Rah! Rah! The cub cried. What's going on? Fuku shouted in confusion. She could feel it, her gas was just about to release. And then she looked down at its face. Its little snout, its pleading eyes. It was so cute. Hey there, little guy. Fuku hesitantly patted the cub's head. Please don't call your mama and kill us. RRHHHHH. The cub cried as it rubbed its head on Fuku's leg. What am I supposed to do here? Fuku asked, looking up at Otoko. Otoko shrugged. That's not helping. Fuku's scream whispered. Grrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr R. R. The cub groaned, obviously hungry, and seemingly looking to Fuku for food. Ah. Fuku racked her brain on what to do, and could only come up with one possible solution. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Fuku had in fact taken the bear cub back to the camp. The cub in question was currently sitting on Fuku's lap, eating a sandwich out of her hand. "It's so cute!" Kei squealed. It's unbearable. Are we sure it's safe? Alice asked, hiding behind Nara. She shrugged and looked down at her Omnitrix, making sure she'd be able to reach it quickly just in case. So what do we do now? Fuku asked as the bear continued. Well, we should probably return this little guy to his parents, Mina said. Kyoku, would mind peering into his memories so we can find his family? Kyoku nodded, and went over to the bear, approaching it cautiously. The bear whined a bit and tilted its head back away in fear, but Fuku started petting them, putting them at ease and allowing Kyoku to put her hands on its head and activate her quirk. After a few minutes, Kyoku took her hands off its head and turned to Mina with a frown. They're dead. They were killed by wolves. Ah, that makes things a bit complicated. Mina winced, as she knew there was no way she could let something so cute wander off and become food for the other animals in the forest. Aha! Mina racked her brain until she came up with the only possible solution she could come up with. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. So you took the bear back here. Izuku's eye twitched as he looked at Mina, Fuku, and the bear from behind his desk. The cub was currently nestled in Fuku's arms, snuggling against her. Izuku took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and just thought for a while. After a couple minutes of silence, Izuku opened his eyes and spoke. Fuku, what is it you want to do with this bear? I don't know. Fuku answered honestly. Fuku, think about it, what do you want to do with this bear? Izuku asked again. Don't be afraid to say anything. Speak your mind. Fuku looked down at the bear, as it adorably stared back at her and nuzzled against her chest. Can I keep them? Mina didn't expect Fuku to say that, given how absurd it sounded. Okay, Izuku said, almost nonchalantly. Mina definitely didn't expect that response. And neither did Fuku, as her eyes went wide with disbelief. Let me be clear, the only reason I'm allowing this is that you've made great improvements since getting here, helped out many of the other children, and have shown a great sense of responsibility, Izuku told her. This is a reward, as well as a risk I'm willing to take given how dutiful you've been. This is a big responsibility, and I expect you to feed it, tame it, and make sure they're healthy and happy. Is that understood? Why, yes, sir. Fuku nodded rapidly, half relieved and half scared. And thus another member was added to the Midoriya family. Chapter 187, Day of K. Beep. 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 Kay shot up as her alarm clock woke her, immediately up and ready to start the day. She turned off her clock, and quickly jumped out of bed, running over to the window to see the sun rising outside. Good morning, world. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. After getting dressed and brushing her teeth, Kay headed to the entry hall, where Izuku, Sei, Kiba, Shiruku, Yami, Yanda, Nara, aka Shina, Alice, and the Cerberus triplets, were lined up. Alright, everyone. It's time for our early morning run. Everyone ready? Izuku asked. Yeah. Everyone shouted. Okay. Let's go. Izuku told them, as he led the charge outside, to start their hour-long jog through the forest. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX drinking some lovely milk. After the jog, Kay was exhausted and covered in sweat, so naturally, she took a relaxing shower before drinking that milk. Ding! Kay, still in her towel, and dripping water all over her room, went over to her phone and saw she got a notification from Izuku. Breakfast is ready. We're having omelets. Hiss. Kay's snakes gave a pleased hiss, as the girl herself was grinning ear to ear. She quickly threw off her towel and started getting dressed. Once she was done, she immediately rushed out of the room. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. After a fulfilling breakfast, Kei, Kyoko, and Eri went into Fuku's room to play with the bear. RRRRRRRR. The bear gave a pleased sound as the girls pet her.
So what did you decide to name her? Kyoku asked.
Yuna, Fuku answered. I named her after a character in one of my favorite mangas.
It's cute, Eri commented. By the way, Kei, do you know what kind of bear she is?
Fuku asked. I heard you really liked animals, and I could really use the help, if that's okay with you. I don't want to bother you or dash.
No problem. Kei interrupted her with a big grin.
I'll give you all the facts you can bear.
Everyone sighed.
So, Yuna is a Japanese black bear, Kei explained, having already done her research.
They're actually endangered. Which means there aren't a lot of them left. TCH, people. Kyoko pouted, knowing the exact reason why that was. That means we have to protect them no matter what. Kei stated resolutely. Right. Everyone else agreed. So what do I feed her? Fuku asked.
Mainly berries and plant stuff, Kei answered, recalling what she looked up last night.
But they can eat meat and stuff too.
Bears can eat almost anything, but you should always double-check before feeding them something new.
Lots of different animals have really weird things that they can and can't eat. Alright. Thank you, Kei-sensei. Fuku said with a bow. Kei giggled.
I know all sorts of things about bears, so if you need help, don't pause and come to me.
XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX
logical thing and went to the library to find out more. Kay was currently running around the library with a stack of books in her hands.
Whoa.
Suddenly she tripped, falling forward as the books spilled out of her hands. But before she hit the ground, one of Kyosei's tendrils wrapped around her, keeping her from falling.
Be careful.
Fu, who was sitting at one of the tables, warned, as he used Kyosei to put Kay back on her feet and pick up her books.
If you run with something blocking your eyes, you're definitely gonna trip.
Right.
Thanks, Fu.
Kay beamed, as Fu put all her books back into her arms.
Why are you even doing research like this?
Fu asked her.
You could probably find things out faster on the internet.
Aha.
But this way is more fun,
Kay claimed, as she went over to a table and laid down her books.
It's like a scavenger hunt.
I guess that's one way to look at it, Fu commented, before returning his attention to his manga.
XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Kota, Netsu, the triplets, Ken, aka, and Kiba were all in front of her, with serious looks on their face. Go! Kota called. Immediately Kei launched her head forward into the bull, and at the same time, sent her snakes into the other bulls. Chug! 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 The onlookers cheered, as Kei gulped in as much water as she could with all her might. Gulp! 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 Bit by bit the water disappeared, until finally, Kei shot her head up from the now empty bowl and raised her arms in victory. I did it! Woo woo! The onlookers cheered. Yeses! I need to pee! Kei shouted, before sprinting off, in the direction of the nearest bathroom. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Bang! 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 Oh Jin! Kei called, holding a plate of food as she stood on the other side of Jin's door. I have food. Do you have to be so loud? Jin grumbled from inside. The door slid open, and Kei hopped inside. Thank you. Why is it always you? Jin groaned. Kei had made it a habit to serve Jin his lunch every day, regardless of his protest. Because you never go outside, and I want to see you. Kei said as she set Jin's lunch on a table next to his bed. This is the only chance we get to talk. There is a reason for that.
Jin sighed as he started eating.
What's been happening outside?
Kay then started to regale him with tales about what was happening in the world around them, as per usual.
XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX
still had one more thing to do. Kei ran from the house, towards her destination, Kai's room. Once she reached the giant metal doors, she pressed the button to open them and found Kai sitting down, eagerly waiting for her.
"Big sis," Kai bellowed. "Big little bro."
Kei called right back, as she entered the room with a book under her arm.
"How was your day?" "Kai, hope it was a good one." "Ha ha ha." Kai laughed, being one of the few people who found Kei's jokes funny. "All right. Let's get this show on the road," Kei said.
Kai laid down and allowed Kei to sit against the base of his neck. Kei opened the book and began telling Kai's nightly bedtime story.
Once upon a time Chapter 188, Cooperation.
Obeda Zensha, president of the Hero Public Safety Commission, was currently sitting in a private meeting room, face to face, with none other than Izuku Midoriya. Next to her was her assistant and vice president Yukumaru Mira, and next to Izuku was Giza, holding a suitcase. "Madam President, thank you for agreeing to meet with me," Izuku told her.
"I believe we have a lot to talk about."
"Yes. Starting with those quirk erasing bullets," Obeda said, wasting no time at all.
"I would like it if you would sell those to the police and the commission." "I've been considering that," Izuku admitted.
"Recently we've found ways to make these bullets without the use of my daughter's blood, which makes the matter less complicated. However, as a quirkless person, I know very well what kind of effect being quirkless can have on a person, which is why I'm only considering selling the temporary version of the product."
"That would be acceptable," Obeda agreed.
"We can analyze the bullets ourselves and figure out the permanent formula then." Little did she know, Izuku already thought about this and had written in the contract she would later go on to sign, that they could only use the temporary bullets. "Oh, and I want to make sure you're not using them in excess.
Constant exposure to the temporary quirk erasers will do permanent damage to a person's body," Izuku explained.
"I trust that you'll use it only when needed."
"Naturally," Obeta nodded. "So we have a deal."
"Let's not be hasty, we have other matters to discuss," Izuku told her. "After all, I have so much planned. For example, did you know we are currently developing other forms of anti-quirk technologies? None of them are ready quite yet, but the progress is promising. We're also close to developing a technology to counter warped quirks."
"That is splendid."
Obeda looked at him with wide eyes. "Such technology would be invaluable to the Commission, as well as the nation as a whole." Yes, which is why I've already had a discussion with the Prime Minister," Izuku revealed.
"You will likely be informed of it later on at some point."
"It was a rather long decision, most of it was around the new cure-all medicine I've developed.
"The what?" Obeda's eyes somehow went even wider. "It's a cure-all drug developed using the same technology as bullets."
"It has nothing to do with our meeting, so I won't discuss it here,"
Izuku dismissed. "Instead, I'd like to show you one last thing." Giza then opened up the suitcase, revealing one of the might fruit. "A fruit?"
Obeda gave him a confused look. "This is the latest development from our botany team," Izuku explained.
"The fruit of might. Named after All Might."
"I have no doubt you're aware of Trigger, well this has similar effects.
Except instead of dulling one's mental faculties, it enhances them.
With the only downside being that it puts a person who consumes it into a harsh state of exhaustion after the 30-minute time limit is up. But so long as you only consume one fruit, it's completely non-lethal."
"I see."
Obeda started to get nervous. The more Izuku revealed, the more she realized what this was.
"And what exactly do you want in return for all this?" "Just enough money to make a profit," Izuku said. And since I'm doing so much for you, I fully expect that favor to be returned. Ah, that's what this was all about. He wants me in his pocket. Obata realized. Izuku was going to give her something, and then threatened to take it away if they didn't do what he wanted. What a wonderful businessman he'd grown into. Should I call? I trust that my friends here at the HPSC will help me with what needs to be done, Izuku said. How generous, Obata responded. There really wasn't much she could do here. All the things Midoriya offered were already extremely valuable to them, and he would likely only make more. Not to mention he no doubt already made deals with the greater government, and by combining that with his cure-all, he would soon have incredible power and influence. It was an offer she could not refuse. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX
via the seer. I have confirmed that Detnerat is a key part of the Meta Liberation Army's financial supplies, Izuku said before his image was replaced by a map of the city and all close-by cities, with red dots on them.
I want you to attack these locations, owned and operated by Detnerat.
Cause as much damage as possible, and take anything valuable.
And of course, no casualties, is that understood? Everyone nodded.
Good, I also want you to steal as much data as possible.
Especially if you find anything relating to the MLA. Izuku ordered. And if you find information connecting the MLA to Detnerat, you are to report it, and hand it over to Nizu.
Sir, if I may, Kaza spoke up.
If we do this, then won't the higher-ups just fire people to save money?
That is exactly what I'm hoping for, Izuku said.
Detnerat's highest-ranking members are all part of the MLA, meaning that they're likely only going to fire people who aren't members of the MLA.
People who will then have a grudge against Detnerat, and will be looking for work. Those people will be very useful for what I have planned for the future. But rest assured, those people will be taken care of.
Kaza nodded.
Yes, thank you, sir. Be quick, All Might won't be active for the next 6 hours, but afterward you'll need to wait until he becomes inactive again, Izuku warned them. Hey boss, you keep saying All Might's inactive during such and such times, but what does that actually mean?
Karaki asked. That is not for you to know, Izuku told them.
It's because he's gonna be retiring soon, Kaza answered, causing her crew to give her surprised looks. He's been appearing less and less often as time goes on, dating back around 10 years ago. My guess is that something happened to him, and now he's on borrowed time.
Time which he's been getting less and less of. How did you dash? Izuku was stunned.
He knew she was smart, that's why he put her in charge, but to be able to put all that together. I'm not one of those idiots that can't see past all propaganda the HPSC has been putting out, Kaza said. All Might won't be around forever. Once you come to terms with that, it's easy to see the signs and put 2 and 2 together.
I see, Izuku responded. It appears I underestimated your intelligence.
I do hope you'll use that intelligence for more than discovering state secrets.
With that, the image of Izuku vanished.
I think we might have made him mad, Karaki said. No, he's just a bit spooked, Kaza said. Understandable, if news got out that All Might was gonna be gone sooner than later, the public would riot.
So what do you think they're going to do when it happens then? Yoko asked.
Who knows, not our problem, Kaza said as she went to leave. Get ready, we have 6 hours. I want to hit 2 facilities tonight.
Khan, do you have the nearest location?
Yes, we're already heading towards there as we speak. We'll arrive in 20 minutes, Rora said.
Good, everyone get ready. Shift, Yo-Yo, and I will be on raiding duty.
Ruff, Pi, and Lilith will be on pillaging duty.
Kaza ordered. Khan, do what you normally do.
You all heard him, take everything that isn't nailed down, and destroy whatever is.
It's time to decimate. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX
hard at work in the factory, producing support gear at a rapid pace to meet demand. Back in one of the offices, the overseer, known as Jet, a slim man with slicked green hair, was sitting back with an irritated look on his face.
Damn that Redestro, what the hell is even doing? Kaboom!
Suddenly the whole building shook, as the sound of an explosion rang out through the factory.
What?
Jet sat up in his chair, his eyes wide as he suddenly became alert.
Kaboom! 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 Kaboom!
The building shook rapidly, as more and more explosions could be heard outside, and Jet could even faintly smell fire and smoke coming from outside. Jet stood up and ran out from the door, and much to his horror he saw absolute chaos unfolding outside.
Giant holes had been burnt into the side of the factory, and weird multicolored tentacle monsters with one giant eye were attacking the workers who were attempting to flee,
wrapping them up in their tendrils, while others grabbed whatever they could and left out of the holes. Meanwhile, Ruff was grabbing things with massive hands made of sand, and taking them out of the holes.
What the hell?
Jet scowled, before jumping over the rails, and down towards the factory floor. As he fell, he activated his quirk, making small jets come out of the sides of his legs.
Jet. Quirk, Jet. Allows the user to spawn jet engines from any part of their body.
After landing, Jet immediately started rocketing his way toward the closest monster, smashing into it at full force, and splattering them into paint.
What the hell?
Jet looked down at his paint-covered fist in confusion.
Shing! Suddenly a bunch of cuts and slashes appeared on his body. Gah!
Jet coughed up blood, before collapsing onto the ground. So, I suppose you must be the boss, Schiff said, as he approached the down man. You should have plenty of good info for us.
Screw you!
Jet shouted as he used what was left of his strength to transform his legs into big jets and rocket toward Shift. However, when Jet reached Shift, he just went right through him.
Slam!
Then Kaze came in from the air and slammed into Jet, nailing him to the ground. We weren't asking permission, Kaze said, using her immense strength to keep Jet pinned down even while he used his quirk.
Whack!
Then Karaki hit him in the head with her yo-yo, knocking him unconscious.
XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Karai asked, in a video call with All for One and Redestro. Oh, definitely, with the fact that they stole his boat, which he was making for seemingly no reason, and then immediately started attacking you, it's not hard to put two and two together. All for One said. We need to do something about this now. Redestro shouted. He's been attacking my facilities en masse. It's been a week, and already he's destroyed over a dozen of my factories, stolen hundreds of millions of yen from my company, and he's forced me to fire my workers en masse. Why haven't you set a trap for them yet? Karai asked. I'm working on that, but with a company as big as mine, it's hard to know where those damned pirates are going to attack. Redestro explained. And even if I did stop the pirates, nothing is stopping Midoriya from just creating more villains to attack us. We'll need to destroy the root of the problem if we need to succeed. All for One said. And that is Midoriya. And he has us in a rather difficult situation. The longer we wait, the more powerful he becomes, yet if we act too much, we draw the ire of the heroes, and bring all of them crashing down on us. We can't afford to play the long game. We need to destroy him in one fell swoop. We'll need to prepare one massive attack, using everything we have. And if we fail? Redestro asked. Well, the station won't be that much worse. All for One said. Although I do have a way we can increase our forces significantly. After all, once information about the Midoriya Foundation's new technology gets out, villains from all across Japan will want to get their hands on it. Speaking of which, we've heard news of the Foundation creating some facilities in the city, and that they have some rather strange machinery, Karai revealed. We're sending people to go after it. Hopefully, we can get something useful out of it. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX
Today was extremely successful, Izuku said. We've pretty much got the entire government looking out to win our approval.
It's good to know they won't get in our way, Niza said. Now we're free to go at our enemies with little restraint. Speaking of which, is the trap ready? Izuku nodded. The prototype is armed and ready for its first test. We just need them to go after the bait. Chapter 189, Prototype. In the dead of night, a black armored truck parked outside of a bricked building. A large metal door opened up, and the truck came right in. The truck kept driving into the facility, before reaching a parking area, and parking before the curb. The back doors opened, and 4 men in full protective gear stepped out, holding a large metallic box. And the moment all of them came out into the open. Shing! 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 Suddenly from the ceiling, foot ninjas dropped from the ceiling, and stabbed the men with their swords. The swords pierced through the men's heads, but instead of blood, sparks flew out, as the men were revealed to be metal instead of flesh. The rest of the ninjas dropped from the ceiling, making 24 ninjas. And lastly, their commander, Foresight, dropped down. Foresight wore a similar ninja garb, but his was blue rather than black. Robots, Foresight said. Did you think we would send real men to get stabbed? Asked a voice from inside the dark armored truck. Immediately all the ninjas went on guard, holding their swords up to the truck. They heard footsteps thunk against the metal floor of the truck. Thunk, 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 thunk. Then a man came into light. He wore a long gray jumpsuit, covering his entire body, with long red metallic boots coming up to his knees, similar metallic gloves covering his hands, a red belt, and a yellow scarf around his neck. On his head was a red helmet, with white trim around the inner edges, and black sunglass-like materials covered everything but his mouth. And on his back was a large red and white shield. Shing! 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 All of the ninjas except Foresight threw throwing stars at him, and they immediately bounced off him, doing absolutely nothing. The man in red held up his arm, and suddenly his hand spun around and transformed into a cannon. Pew 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 pew. The man in red started opening fire, unleashing small balls of light from his cannon at the ninjas, nailing almost all of them in seconds, and sending their smoking unconscious bodies to the floor. Foresight had already activated his quirk and dodged all the balls of light. Quirk, Foresight, allows the user to see the enemy's next immediate action. Seeing that this was a trap, Foresight immediately ran out of the parking lot and to the exit. Poof! The man in red grunted as the doors opened up, and more robots came in, to deal with the metal cube. Set up the device. I have work to do. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX
the foot base he was assigned to. Forsyth walked through the halls of the base until he reached the room he was looking for. He walked in, and most of the room was underwater, with only one walkway leading halfway through it. Forsyth walked to the end of the platform and kneeled. "Sir." That's when a large fish eel hybrids with arms and robotic legs attached to it. "You failed." Fishface hissed. "Explain yourself." "It was a trap, sir. The men were robots, and there was what looked like an elite bodyguard or mercenary." Forsyth explained. "Our weapons were completely ineffective on him, and he had some kind of laser weapon." "TCH, that damn Midoriya knew we'd come," Fishface said. "I trust you didn't lead him here." "I was not followed," Forsyth said. "I'm sure of it." BRRRRR. BRRRRR. BRRRRRR. Suddenly the whole base was bathed in red, as the alarms went off. Fishface glared at Forsyth, who was absolutely dumbfounded. "How dash?" Pew 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 pew. Outside, the sound of a distant ruckus could be heard, the sounds of clanging metal and a blaster being fired. Getting closer and closer. Until suddenly, almost all the noise came to a stop, and the only thing that could be heard was the sound of loud footsteps on metal. Thunk! 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 Thunk!
Thunk! And as the footsteps got closer and closer, suddenly, they heard the sound of whistling. WRRRR 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 WRRR 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 WRRR. And that was when the man in red appeared in the doorway. How did Yuga Foresight didn't have the time to ask questions, as immediately the man started opening fire. Pew 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 pew. Balls of light flew from his cannon, hitting Foresight, who had nowhere to dodge, and leaving his unconscious body floating in the water. Fishface lunged at the man in red, but the man just grabbed him by the bottom of his mouth, flipped him over, and stepped on him, pinning him down. Ack! Fishface tried to push himself up, but even with his robotic legs, the man's strength was too much for him. Don't bother, the man said, pointing his cannon at his face. Pew! XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. When the man in red came out of the facility, he found that there were half a dozen cop cars waiting for him, the cops armed and pointing their weapons at him. Death Arms was also present, in front of all the cops. Vigilante! Freeze and put your hands up. The man in red didn't seem fazed. I am Midoriya Foundation model number 000. Prototype. I am not a vigilante. Nor am I committing any crimes, all of this has been approved by the government. Yeah, like I'd believe that. You look pretty human for a robot. Death Arms said. Last chance. The only reason I'm still here is because I need to make sure these people are arrested. The prototype said. Do your jobs so I can leave already. This is all a waste of time. Alright, buddy, the hard way it is. Death Arms shouted, and he rushed towards the prototype, with his fist cocked back. Fool! The prototype said as he pulled out his shield. Clang! Death Arms' fist slammed into the prototype's shield, and the sound rang out loudly across the street. The prototype slid back a few inches but seemed otherwise unaffected. He moved his shield, bringing Death Arms' arm with it, before letting loose shots from his cannon right to his face. Pew 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 pew. Ack! Death Arms stumbled backward as the laser shots hit his chest and face, causing him to stagger slightly as they created slight burns on him. Death Arms eventually put his arms up in front of him to block the shots. However, this would soon prove ineffective, as suddenly, the prototype's cannon began to charge. BRRRRRRRRR. Pew! Suddenly a much larger energy shot blasted out of his cannon and slammed into Death Arms. His arms spread apart, and he went flying backward, slamming into a police car and making it cave in on itself. Open fire! One of the policemen ordered. BLAM 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 BLAM. Dozens of shots were fired at the prototype, and all of them bounced off him, as he stood there not reacting to them. That's enough! Shouted a voice from the sky. Everyone stopped the fire, and looked up at the sky, to see hawks flying over them. Hawks? What do you mean that's enough? Death Arms asked, pulling himself up from the wreck of the police car, his arms still smoking and burning up. I believe he told you that he wasn't doing anything illegal, Hawks said, crossing his arms. This is a joint operation between the Midoriya Foundation and the HPSC. An operation that you are currently interfering with. Not to mention attacking private, personal property? A bit of both. The prototype shrugged. Wait, so this thing's actually a robot? Death Arms shouted in shock, giving the prototype a shocked look. Hawks. The prototype said. You were supposed to be here before any other heroes could show up. Why were you late? Oh, I was here the whole time, I just wanted to see the world's first fully sentient AI in action. Hawks smirked. Why you little dash. Death Arms was about to give Hawks hell for that, but he was cut off, as suddenly the prototype started glowing. Should he be doing that? The glow grew brighter and brighter, until suddenly, it rose into the sky in a beam, before disappearing entirely. What the hell was that? Death Arms shouted.
Buddy, even I'm not allowed to know that kinda information.
Hawks chuckled. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Currently, Izuku was in the meeting room at the lab, sitting with Mai, Nejiru, Hikari, and the prototype, who was the only one not sitting down, rather he was leaning against the wall. Truly wonderful. Izuku continued to praise. The prototype was a complete success. Ah, I suppose we should call you by your name, which is? Protoman. Nejiru said proudly. Protoman sighed. I wish as much effort was into creating my name as there was in creating me. Name aside, I must say I am incredibly impressed by the results. I thought he might struggle a bit, but he made it all look so easy. Izuku said. Truly you more than the sum of your parts. Which said a lot because the two fractals that had been used were rather powerful. The first one was a fractal that allowed for the absorption of solar energy, which the user would then be able to shoot out. The second was one that allowed the user to transform into light, and move to a location at the speed of light. Basically teleportation. However, the user must be familiar with the place they're going to. If I couldn't do this much, then I'd be scrapped. Protoman huffed. Not at all, we wouldn't do something so cruel as to give you life and then take it away, Hikari said. At worst you would simply be upgraded. I feel it's an exaggeration to say we gave him life, Nejiru argued. It's more like we gave him a form. Once it has a somewhat organic form to hold onto, chaos energy creates life itself. Regardless, it's both impressive and somewhat terrifying, Izuku admitted. No offense, Protoman.
None taken, Protoman grunted.
That's not even taking zero into account. Izuku sighed, before looking at Nejiru, who had the decency to look a bit sheepish. If this is just using fractals, just imagine if a Chaos Emerald instead.
We don't need to imagine, sir, we've done the calculations.
Hikari sighed.
He could destroy a small county, and likely sink an island back into the ocean. Or he could save a country by himself, Nejiru argued. Yes, which is why their creation should have a heavy amount of oversight and should have an abundant amount of time devoted to it, Hikari said. Rather than say, done in secret by one person in a rush.
Agreed.
Which is why any and all creation of artificial intelligence must be approved by me.
Izuku said.
Any and all breaches of this will result in strict punishment, including possible immediate employment termination.
Understood.
Yes, sir.
Everyone said. Chapter 190, Short 17. The truth.
You know, I'm thinking of making an official fishing pond.
Izuku thought.
He and Yonda were currently at the edge of a lake, sitting on two chairs with fishing rods in hand.
It is a very relaxing activity. Yonda said.
But we can talk about that later after we're done talking about what we really came here for.
Ever to the point. Izuku sighed. Only with you, father. Yonda said with a smirk. All right. So I just want to talk to you.
No scoldings, no high horses, no threat of punishment, and no manipulations of lies.
Izuku told her. Just you and me. Father to daughter. Person to person. So you enjoy controlling people? Yonda paused. Well, I don't not enjoy it. I'll be honest with you, Yonda, I think you find manipulating people fun, and you're using an excuse of trying to help people out so you don't feel bad about it. Izuku stated outright. Yonda paused again. I mean. She was kinda at a loss on how to answer that. She wanted to deny it, but at the same time, now that she thought about it, was he wrong? She always felt a bit of glee whenever she figured out a way to help. And definitely not for the same reason Izuku did. The feeling of setting up a plan, and watching it all go out the way she wanted, it made her feel. Does it make you feel powerful? Izuku asked her, hitting the nail right on the head. It appears you've gotten to know me quite well, father. Yonda admitted. Perhaps better than me. Or perhaps, now that I think about it, I knew all along and just was ignoring it. Alright, yes. I do enjoy getting people to do what I want. It makes me feel at ease. Happy even. It makes you feel like you have control. And that makes you feel safe. Izuku concluded. I've been talking with Rin and Nizu, trying to understand you better. And we've come to a consensus. You can tell me if it's right or not. When your quirk first activated, it was more like a curse to you. You would hear the nasty, hurtful thoughts of everyone around you constantly, with no way to stop it. And when you did attempt to stop it, it made things worse. You must have felt so powerless. But after you realized you could use your power to gain control of things, you finally felt like had a grip on things again. And so you became addicted to that feeling, are we right? Yanda thought about that for a while. Going through the memories of her life, and trying to see if everything matched up. That is upsettingly accurate. I see. Izuku paused. So then, what are we going to do about it then? I don't want you feeling helpless and powerless, but at the same time, I don't want you going around manipulating people for your own amusement. And I doubt just pointing this out will be enough to stop you. Yanda remained silent. Tellingly so. We need to find a healthy way for you to express these feelings. Izuku told her. And honestly, I'm not completely sure how to do that. But I'm going to try and figure it out. But I need you to work with me here. Very well, father. Yanda agreed with a downcast expression. It seems I have been, not as good as I thought. So, for you. And for this family. I will try to be better about my activities. Thank you. Izuku smiled and ruffled her hair. That's my girl. Hidden sights. Fuku hummed to herself as she finished up washing the dishes. Then she felt something wet and squishy tap her on the shoulder. Fuku jumped and fell off the footstool she was using to reach the sink. But instead of hitting the hard ground, she landed on a bright blue slime that cushioned her fall. Sanson? Fuku squealed. Don't surprise me like that. Sorry. Sanson apologized. Want to show you something? Let's go. Suddenly, Sanson started moving, with Fuku on top of her, squirming and confused as they went. Wait. I have to do the dishes. Fuku protested, to no avail. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. After a good bit of traveling, Sanson and Fuku reached a lake. Come on Sanson, please at least tell me what we're going to. Fuku screamed, as Sanson suddenly wrapped around her, forming a slime bubble. Wait. What are you ahhhhh? Without another word, Sanson rolled into the lake and started moving deeper and deeper under the water. Fuku went silent as Sanson swam through the water, just kinda accepting that by now she didn't really have any input on what was happening. They soon arrived at a small underwater cave entrance. Sanson swam through it, and Fuku held her breath, not liking how close those jagged rocks were to them. Although she didn't really need to worry about that, as Sanson was more than capable of protecting the two of them from even the pointiest of rocks. After a while more of traveling, they finally reached a space where the cave curved upwards, and Sanson rose, until eventually, they came out of the water and into a cave. And Fuku was utterly shocked at what she saw. First of all, there were lights placed there, artificial ones, meaning it was likely Sanson had been down here before. Second, there were tiny crystals placed all across the ceiling, sparkling like tiny stars. And lastly, on the ground, there was a patch of grass, and on that grass were roughly carved crystal flowers. And despite the shaky craftsmanship, they were still utterly beautiful. Wow! Fuku gasped as she looked around the stunning cave. Did you make this? Aha! Sanson formed back into her humanoid form and crossed her arms while putting on her smuggest expression. This ish my art. It's beautiful. Fuku said, still in awe of the scenery around her. How long did it take you to make this? How did you make this?
Found cave, decided to make it art, Sanson explained.
Yeah, but where did you get all these crystals? Fuku asked.
Found them, Sanson explained.
I like exploring.
So that's what you do all day, Fuku said.
I guess you could probably get in a lot of places people can't get normally. That's probably how you found so many of these, but why did you want me to see it?
Not that I wish I didn't, it's beautiful.
It's just, why me?
Yonda told me to, Sanson explained.
She said it might help with your game.
Really?
Fuku blushed a bit.
In truth, she knew she wanted to add something like this to her world exploration game as soon as she saw it, and she was quite glad she got permission that easily. I'll have to thank her later.
And, thank you for showing me all this. Do you mind if I paint this later?
Sanson gave her the thumbs up.
Okay.
That will be it for this part. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 35.
If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.